Welcome back, scholars, to our second installment in our statistical journey, where we are going to learn to describe orally and in writing the purposes of and differences among sample surveys, experiments, and observational studies, so I can understand that my choice of the design for a study will impact what questions I can answer. I'll know I've got it when I can recognize the difference between a survey, an observational study, or an experimental study. In this intro slide, we have two different questions, and we are tasked with determining whether or not they are statistical by nature. Right? If the question is in fact a statistical question, determine whether an experimental study, an observational study, or a survey would be best at providing data to answer the question. We need to first ask ourselves, what is a statistical question to begin with? A statistical question is a question that requires data to be collected and in which variation is expected in the data collected. We're tasked once again with determining whether or not these two questions are in fact statistical, and based on our responses, whether or not they can best be measured by a survey, an observational or experimental study. And repeatedly throughout the next 5 or 6 slides, you will have various statistical questions where you will decide whether or not a survey, an observational, or experimental study is the best type of study. Make sure you justify. And I have gone ahead and will collect the data that you are supplying, you being you and your classmates, so that you can see how everyone is responding. Don't assume that the majority is correct. Okay, if you do feel strongly about a particular type of brain fart, you feel strongly about a type of statistical study, please make sure you go with that option. To conclude, we have a study of 1,000 people aged 20 to 30 being asked how much television each person watches each night, and how each person would rate their energy level in the evenings. The study showed that people who watch television for at least 2 hours every night have lower energy in the evening than people who do not watch as much television. Is this study a survey, observational study, or experimental study? We would define it to be a survey. Why would we define it to be a survey? Well, people were asked to provide data about themselves rather than the researchers collecting information about the people independently or influencing the amount of television they watched each night. So considering the fact that the data was collected through a survey, does this mean that watching television for at least 2 hours every night lowers your energy in the evening? If you were to perform the experiment on your own to determine if watching television for at least 2 hours every night lowers energy in the evening, how would you set up your own experiment? So once again, as I mentioned in the previous video, we are still at the exploratory phase. There are right and wrong answers within reason, but for the most part, as long as you're generating some type of tangible response to the questions, we can facilitate a discussion. Please be sure to read through the Lesson 2 summary that provides you with some invaluable information regarding the content that we've just gone over, and we will pause here and pick up our discussion in class.